The Trump family's wealth is growing by billions due to the cryptocurrency industry. And I'm here to tell you that savers are about to get crushed. Everybody's trying to get rich quick, but most people are not paying attention to what is actually happening. With a destroyed bond market and no desire for US bonds, they're dramatically and strategically behind the scenes trying to fix the problem. Now, what's happening right now is there's a dramatic shift in your financial system. We're moving from industrial to technical, an old archaic banking system to a new, faster banking system, distributed ledger technology, on-demand liquidity. And I'm here to tell you that savers are going to be losers. Ray Dalio has warned you that cash is trash. Robert Kiyosaki has warned you that cash is trash. There's a reason why big money is moving into gold, Bitcoin. I think things like XRP, deflationary assets that have fixed supplies that are opposite of the inflationary US dollar. Because here's the only option, guys. Here's the only option. They can lower interest rates and print a ton of money and work as fast as they can to grow our way out of this economy. Now, that's Trump's plan. Bring interest rates as low as possible, which does what? Stimulates debt so that we, the public, can refinance our debt to create some cash flow to pump money into the economy. He's going to pull a bunch of jobs back into America, bring manufacturing back into America. And yes, you're going to see these markets boom. But here's the thing. It has an inversion effect. At some point, probably going into 2029, as we go into the next bull run, the next cycle, we're going to go into inflation, hyperinflation. You can't run low interest rates and print the hell out of money and devalue the dollar. Remember, Trump wants a weaker dollar. That's why they're positioning themselves as the crypto capital of the world and the Bitcoin capital of the world. And the Trump family's wealth has grown dramatically because of cryptocurrency. But instead of just talking about this, let's look at the facts, figures, numbers, logic. So yesterday, they launched their World Liberty Financial Token, which increased their wealth dramatically once again in the billions. Okay, so now they have their own DeFi platform. I'm going to show you how they're taking over the stablecoin game, but why would they be making these moves? Why would Bo Hines step down as the executive director for digital assets, shoot over to Tether and work to bring Tether deeply into the United States? Why would Brad Garlinghouse be hanging out at the White House when we have RLUSD now? The Ripple case has now been solved. They beat the SEC. Now we got ISO live, ready to rock and roll. A lot of things happening in October around XRP and the ETF. So you have a Bitcoin ETF, an XRP ETF, an Ethereum ETF, and then asset managers are going to be begging you to allocate some of your portfolio. Because remember, they get paid on assets under management. So would you rather have assets that are going to continue to grow and appreciate that fixed supply? Or would you rather continue to focus on an overvalued, overheated stock market that eventually is going to have to come down? So at some point, the housing market's going to have to come down. The stock market's way overheated. And the people storing their cash, it's going to continue to be worthless. So what I believe is we're in a transition into fixed supply assets, an asset-backed currency once again. And you better be positioned for this transition. So let me show you guys exactly what is happening. And on the back end, I share with you exactly what I am doing. Okay, so we're going to kind of walk through this model. If you haven't been watching my videos over the past, last 3 to 4 videos, I would watch them in a kind of in a series because I'm taking you guys deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is how I make my investments. I don't do my investments on hype. I don't do it off opinion. I don't do it off emotion. I do it off facts, figures, numbers, logic. I do it on historical patterns, and I study billionaires and I watch what the billionaires are doing, not what hype people on Twitter are doing, not what the get rich quick is trying to do. Working to get wealthy for sure by understanding what is actually going to happen. So the first thing we want to look at is this was posted on August 27, 2025. Debanked and downtrodden Eric and Donald Trump Jr. inspired the creation of Trump family-backed crypto project. So their narrative around this is that they got debanked, right? As they started going to politics. Remember, Trump said in 2023, or he said about 3 years ago, just recently, he said that I started investing in cryptocurrency. So his kids started getting into cryptocurrency. He left the presidency, last presidency, saying Bitcoin, he's a dollar guy, came back with wanting a weaker dollar, okay, and having their own decentralized bank called World Liberty Financial the fastest growing stable coin in the world, which I'm going to show you. And so they created their own infrastructure. Well, now here's the thing. Now people say, you know, they say there's lack of conflict of interest because Trump is the president and all the crypto stuff is underneath the trust with his children running it, right? Well, both sides, there's a conflict of interest. Think about the politicians on the other side, right? That have insight, that made millions of dollars. They have a $250,000 salary, but they have $30-40 million in net worth. Okay, the game has always been the same, guys. The people who create the rules, create the game, create the investments, right? We get the scraps, Cantillon effect. They print money, goes the top all the way down to the bottom. So you got to understand the game. You got to understand that if you give $1 million to every person in society, it's going to go back in the same 1%'s hand. Jim Rohn says, okay? So first we know that they created their own platform because they got debanked, but this platform is different. It's decentralization. We are the bank. We can participate. We make the rules, okay? That's the difference in this new system. We're moving from a centralized system to a decentralized system. And Trump does not care about competition. Competition is very healthy. So, okay, so first we know that they were getting debanked, so they started to create their own platform, which is up and running, World Liberty Financial, which went live yesterday, or the actual token went live yesterday. It has actual real utility. You can go read the white paper. Trump Crypto Group to launch stablecoin backed by U.S. Treasury. Okay, so this was the next phase of it, which is already launched, but I'm taking you through the phases. So World Liberty Financial says USD1 digital currency will offer seamless, secure cross-border transactions. Okay. Now, here's where the next part of the narrative comes in. So the Genius Act is designed to regulate stablecoins in the U.S., but how will it work? Okay, the Genius Act guaranteed essential national infrastructure for U.S. stablecoins. In the United States, first comprehensive legislation. This is from the World Economic Forum. Okay, so this is important. The Genius Act marks the United States' first major legislative steps towards regulating stablecoins. With this bill, it joins a growing list of countries seeking to bring oversight and stability to a rapidly expanding digital asset ecosystem. The act aims to provide clear regulatory guardrails for the industry. The Genius Act contains 3 significant provisions. Stablecoin issuers are limited to insured depository institutions, banks, okay? Credit unions, subsidiary, and banks of non-bank financial institutions that receive approval from the Federal Reserve and demonstrate their ability to comply with relevant laws. Okay, so if you want to operate, issues are limited to insured depository. Okay, that's important. Stablecoin issuers must hold 1-to-1 reserves for any stablecoin issued. These reserves can be held in physical currency, U.S. Treasury bills, key, write that down, U.S. Treasury bills, repurchase agreements, or other low-risk assets approved by regulators. Approved by regulators, guys. We're heading toward this decentralized system, goes back into the Federal Reserve, regulators, the whole system is just being rewired, guys. Now, the part that I really wanted you to see was the Treasury bills, okay? They're buying short-term treasuries. What is going on with the U.S. Treasury market, the bond market, okay? It is destroyed. Now, what happens is, ideally, they should be raising or keeping interest rates the same, and based on Ray Dalio's measurements, and raising taxes, right? That's what they should be doing in regards to this type of economy, right? And then balancing things out. But they're going to lower taxes. They're going to lower, which I'm excited about, lower interest rates, which is going to devalue the dollar. But if they devalue the dollar and the interest rates are lower, other countries don't want to buy treasuries, bonds. When interest rates are higher, treasuries are more attractive. But the Genius Act is genius. If stablecoins, Bohine steps down, goes out to Tether, brings Tether into America. Okay, his U.S. strategy, you got RLUSD, you got USD1, Trump stablecoin, you got USDT, USDC, you got all these stablecoins now purchasing short-term treasuries, which keeps the actual engine going and keeps the U.S. dollar from collapsing because we have more debt than we have income. They lower interest rates, okay? The U.S. can refinance their debt, which is something that has to happen. 37 trillion in debt. Do you know how much interest we pay on that? So they'll be able to refinance the debt. You'll be able to refinance your debt. And since there's only debt in the system, then the cash that you're holding is trash. So that's why you have to learn to become an investor. Okay, so now we know that the debanked family created their own DeFi platform. They have the #1 fastest growing stable coin, which is not an investment. It's a stable place you can store your money. Okay, there's going to be many different stable coins. Banks are going to have stable coins. So that's everybody's like, where do I invest in USD1? It's a place to store your money. So if you pulled profits, you can store in USD1, USDT, RLUSD. Okay. Then they linked up with Zach Witkoff to build a global empire in months, a global crypto empire in months. The son of Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, has developed a stablecoin USD1, the fifth largest cryptocurrency. Well, Steve Witkoff has been jetting around the world as President Trump's envoy. His son Zach has been on a similar international mission of his own, promoting the cryptocurrency venture he shares with the Trump family. Zach Witkoff, 32, and associate from World Liberty Financial, which is the token that launched yesterday, a company he co-founded last year in which the Trump family holds 60% stake, have been in talks with officials from the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, Malaysia, and over the deals involving its USD1 stablecoin. In a few months, this has become the world's fifth largest stablecoin, a virtual currency pegged to stable assets. In this case, the US dollar, with the market capitalization at 2.2 billion, paying commissions to Witkoff and Trump's every time it changes hands. They're creating the new banking system, guys. Okay. Think about this. They're working to create USD1, and Trump's writing the rules now, the USD1 to become the most valuable currency to transact on. Okay, think about that for just a moment. So Trump's World Liberty Financial token began trading yesterday. The World Liberty Financial token, known as WLFI, were sold to investors after Trump family and its businesses partners last year launched their venture, a decentralized finance platform that has also issued stablecoins. Let me just show you guys the continued thing here. You got to pay attention. Get out of the hype. Okay, I'm just showing you the infrastructure. You know, people are going to comment, this is bad, this is good. You have to decide. This is what's happening, okay? Bad, good, and different. This is what's happening. You are going to have stable coins. That's how you're going to transact. There's going to be things like XRP that move the currency around the world. Okay. We're going to go from a centralized system to a decentralized system. Money is going to move at the speed of light like this. Eventually, you're going to own the rails. You're going to be consumed by them. There's going to be no middle ground. AI technology is going to replace so many jobs. Jerome Powell said it himself. In 2020 and 2021, I'm worried about the middle class leverage towards technology coming back to the working poor, moving down to the working poor, the middle class. Okay, technology is coming in. You do not want to be on the inflation side of this. You want to be in deflationary assets that will protect your wealth. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. I want to continue to take this. You need to pay attention to Alt5. This is not an altcoin. This is a company, okay? Alt5 Sigma Corporation announces closing of its 1.5 billion registered direct offering and concurrent private placement in initiative of World Liberty Financial, okay? This is Witkoff, okay? What is Alt5? Faster, lower cost transfers, crypto as a service built in for the real economy. They are literally reshaping the global financial system, okay? Instant, low cost, and secure global payments. Solutions, stablecoin and global payments. Stablecoin, global payments. So Trump, what they have done is they have rewired the financial system. You are single-handedly seeing the new infrastructural change. Everybody's arguing back and forth. It's going to be XRP, the only thing. It's going to be Litecoin, the only thing. It's going to be Bitcoin, the only thing. There's all this tribalism happening. And the fact is, there's a lot happening. And the thing that you need to understand is how billionaires operate. What they do is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. They even, if you watch their video, I obsessively watch and I study Ray Dalio, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, God rest Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, Kathy Woods, Robert Kiyosaki. I study these people methodically and how they make their investments. They're not chasing hype. They're looking at companies, infrastructure. They're looking at historical patterns. They're looking at trends. The markets are just cycles. They go up, they go down. And your emotions are their profits. Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Ray Dalio, Kathy Woods, Robert Kiyosaki buy when there's blood in the streets. They salivate when there's blood in the streets. When these markets are red, we buy at the Warrior Academy. When it's green, We get a little bit of anxiety. We start to kind of like look strategically and say, should we do an exit profit plan? And what do we do with that profit? We sure as hell don't store in cash. We create cash flow through cash generating dividends. You got super high risk dividends that pay a large amount that are synthetic, option calls. You can get into things like that are, extremely volatile that you can, we call it low risk to D-risk to high risk down to D-risk. You got, medium risk dividends that can pay you 10 to 15% guaranteed, right? You got the really volatile synthetic options trading where you can get premiums off of that. You got medium risk dividends that you can get 10 to 15%, right? That are focused on the S&P that you get actually exposure. And then you got like your Coca-Colas. So we're always creating cash flow. I create cash through businesses. I create cash through my investments, liquidity events. I put it back into cash flow. Okay, I put it back into deflationary assets when the markets are red. I store and I max fund my insurance policies. And then I create a leverage component with my deflationary asset Bitcoin and my insurance policies. Now I have a leverage component. So we become the bank. That is the cool part about the system right now, is we get to become the bank. And now with these DeFi platforms coming out, I'll give you a specific example how I use DeFi to buy cash flow. I took my Bitcoin, I put it onto Salt Lending. Okay. I only leveraged about 25% of my overall asset. I put Bitcoin on Salt Lending. They held my Bitcoin. I never sold it. They gave me liquidity, their cash. Okay. They gave me 70% LTV for the amount that I needed. So say someone needed $1 million. Okay. They'd give you $700,000. Okay. Give you a 30% buffer because it's very volatile. You take the 70%, they give you their cash at an interest rate. That's where they make their money. They charge me 14% for the cash, tax-free, because loans are tax-free. I took that cash and I bought a business, cash flowing business. The cash flowing business, I made sure that the cash flowing business could pay it off within 1 year. That's how we did it. Okay. I'm paying it 14%. Be like, damn, 14%. But remember, I'm the bank. My Bitcoin never is sold. I borrowed against my Bitcoin at 14%. I looked at historical patterns. It grows by 50%. I made 36% on my money, and I'm paying my own LTV back. So I'm giving them their money back with interest. My LTV goes up. It'll be paid off in April is 6 months away. It'll be completely paid off in 6 months. That availability, that 25% liquidity, it keeps growing because I keep investing. But that 25% liquidity will be available again. What I'll do is over my overall portfolio, I don't go over 25%. And guess what I'm going to do? Damn well, I'm going to borrow again. And hopefully I think Jack Mallers' strike is about 9%. He got it on single digits. You got Coinbase is at 5%. Be careful. There's variable rates in there too. I want fixed rates. So Jack Mahler, I think strike is about 9% right now. So if I can borrow at 9% on my own money and I can beat the hurdle rate somewhere else on a maybe a synthetic call options dividend, right? So, options, right? And I can make, anywhere from 30 to 40 to 70% on that. Or maybe I want to go into a low risk dividend or a medium risk dividends paying guaranteed 10 to 15%. I'm borrowing at 9 and I'm making 15. I'm making 6% on my money and I pay that back. And then what happens when it's paid off? I do it again. That's richest man in Babylon. I'm constantly moving money. I'm constantly growing money. You can go from low risk, cash value life insurance, right? Borrow at 5% for the year, go into high risk, right? Then de-risk down into low risk, right? There's all kinds of things you can do, but cash is trash. If you're saving your cash right now, it's just devaluing and devaluing and devaluing. You only have two options right now. I guess one option is they lower interest rates and the markets are going to boom. People are going to feel wealthy. But remember, everything in nature goes in a cycle. It won't continue that way. It's going to have to reset itself. Study the Warren Buffett indicator. Okay, the Warren Buffett the indicators. Go to Google right now and type in, stop the video, go to Warren Buffett indicator. The stock market is overvalued by like 215%. You have a bunch of businesses on the stock market that got bailed out by junk bonds, right? They're going to lower interest rates. Everybody's going to be able to refinance their debt, which all we're doing is refinancing debt. That's it. It's just a Ponzi scheme. We're refinancing debt. We take that extra cash flow from the refinanced debt, we put it in the bank, and then it gets lent out again. It just keeps the Ponzi scheme continues on and on and on. That's why assets are extremely important. You have to learn to beat inflation. So that's what we do. I'm constantly, so for example, today is Tuesday. I got paid on Monday by one of my companies. Immediately, I was like, boom, okay, how can I get this into cash generating dividends? Okay. So I bought some synthetic called, I can't say the word today, synthetic call options trading, right? Which are high volatility. It's only 10% of my portfolio, but they're paying me a large amount every single month. But I de-risk. So there you go. I created cash flow. I looked at the markets and markets are down. I bought more XRP and Bitcoin. Okay. Every day I dollar cost average into XRP and Bitcoin automatically. Every month I buy Solana, my top 3 cryptos. I'm super hyper concentrated. I'm not trying to catch all these get rich quick stuff. XRP number 1 by a long shot. Okay. Bitcoin's number 2. Solana's number 3. My top 6 are XRP, Bitcoin, Solana, XLM, HBAR, and VeChain. Okay. I'm going to consolidate out of, I have other cryptocurrencies too. I'm going to be consolidating as they profit into the top 3, which is XRP, Bitcoin, and Solana. That works for me. I don't need to have a million different cryptos. And then as new things come in, AI technology, we'll be researching those and we'll continue to grow, right? We'll make Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger type decisions, right? We're not chasing the markets. We don't care if the markets are red. We celebrate when they're red. If they're green, we calmly exit if we need to, or we just hold long term. You have to compound money, guys. So if you can't be patient for the next 6 years, and people see in the comments, people like 6 years, like it takes people 30 years in their career to make $250,000 a year. The average person retires with like $275,000 in their 401k. If you retire with $1 million at 4% interest, which hardly anybody does, that's $40,000 in retirement income in a basic retirement plan. That's $40,000 for $1 million. $1 million is not a lot of money. So we have to learn how to take these liquidity events and these amazing opportunities like cryptocurrency, AI technology, and these big boom and bust cycles to get a boom, but then transmute that not into things, but into cash flow, into things that you can borrow against to create more cash flow. Okay, we got to change our mindset. We weren't taught any of this stuff. You need to learn how to create cash flow. You need to learn how to invest in assets that are going to appreciate. You need to learn how to invest in assets that are going to protect your wealth and compound over time. And then once they compound, you create the flywheel and keep it going. So I use a 4-prong ecosystem: cash flow. I transmute it into deflationary assets that give me liquidity events. With the liquidity event, I transfer it into cash value life insurance. With cash value life insurance, I create leverage. I got my Bitcoin leverage and I got my life insurance leverage. And then eventually I'll be able to do it with XRP. I'll be able to do it with my other assets because DeFi will be completely solidified. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you need any support at all, please reach out. I love you guys. Warriors, let's get your shit together.